How shall a young man correct his way? By ruling himself after thy law. The point of starting small is to begin to form a prayer rule. It's a very pious practice of many of our fathers, forming that rule of prayer. The rule of prayer is the rule that you know you can do every day and also fulfill your duties of your state in life. So forming that rule of prayer, you form it slowly, step by step, as we said in the last video. So forming that rule of prayer, that's your bedrock. And then you can form a greater rule of life. I'm going to add a link to a sample rule of life. Great saints have followed this practice. It's just a list of things you can always do and to always commit to those things. And then once you know that you can do them, after a long period of time of doing them and fulfilling your duties, you know you can do them. That's when you make a vow to God and you vow to do it every single day. Because then you know that you can fulfill your duties and fulfill your rule. So you bind yourself to this rule, and then that's when you really know that you have been negligent in the spiritual life or not. Because again, the devil is going to try to trick you into doing more than you can do, and then making you feel guilty. You haven't actually been negligent for doing more than you possibly can. But then you also know if you really have been negligent, you've done less than you really can. So forming that prayer rule, you have to form a prayer rule. That's going to be the bedrock of your whole spiritual life, is the prayer. The prayer is the first foundation of the 3 pillars. So once you have that prayer rule, then you can begin to build a greater rule of life. Now, so for example, praying the rosary every day. One example is to do 1 decade per day. What you can do for a period of time, commit to that. If you're commuting to work, you can start by just praying a few decades, or 5 if you can, 1/3, on your commute to your work. So you can start that. Since you commute to work every day, you got 5 days out of the week starting to do that. Fitting it in where you can so that you start to begin the habit. The habit is the key, so you can have that rule. So we're to talk about this continually as Septuagesima approaches. Get that rule down, get that foundation of the prayer rule. And we'll talk about prayer in more detail in the future. We're also going to talk about the other pillars, spiritual reading and predominant fall. God bless.